backup quarterback comes in as a spark for the other team. How big was the pressure you guys were able to put on Shedeur to keep him off balance?
And I'm so glad you asked that. I should have said more about that in the team post meeting. I mean, first of all, the defense. I think they gave up 187 yards. Okay, the pressure, the pass rush was incredible, especially in the second half. How many sacks, how many quarterback hits, really did give him a chance to breathe really at all. I thought the coverage was really good. Man coverage, yeah, he completed a couple there, but how about the coverage down the stretch? How about Cheeto's play? How about Rowe's play? Just tight coverage and batting balls out and getting PBUs. Of course, the sacks. I'm just gonna be more proud of those guys.
You just told me we picked him on Saturday, right? Friday night driving home, y'all are going to pick Shedeur. I would say that's not happening. But at the end of the day, that's Andrew Barry's call. If he made the call to pick Shedeur.
If you feel this way about Shedeur, why y'all still got the man?
Since 2000, the Cleveland Browns have had 35 different starting quarterbacks. So now you're going to take it upon yourself to say Shedeur Sanders wasn't your pick. And that's probably why it's gonna work.
Hey, when I look at it, I just like how the young man going about himself, man. Shedeur, there's no better way to go about this than keep your head down and keep working, bro. He looks comfortable out there, first and foremost, and he looks like he's still enjoying the game, man. And I think this is just more, fuel to the fire as opposed to it's gonna help him out throughout his NFL career in general.
You know what they're trying to do? They're trying to break.
So John Harbaugh just dropped a comment about Shedeur Sanders that has the entire NFL world buzzing right now. And trust me, this wasn't your typical sideline cliche. This was a future Hall of Famer sending a clear message toward Kevin Stefanski and the Cleveland Browns without ever needing to say their name out loud. But here's where the whole thing jumps from drama to outright chaos. Coach Prime was in tears yesterday. Shannon Sharpe unleashed a 4-minute rant calling the situation malpractice. And when you hear the full breakdown, you understand why this has all the fingerprints of one of the most avoidable front office meltdowns in recent NFL memory.
I know Joe got questions. I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to say this before I do, Ocho. In all my years that I go back to really following the draft and understanding where players are getting drafted, back in '87, in almost 40 years, I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah. I've never seen nothing like this myself. Obviously, I know I only played a short time, but I've been around long enough to know. Obviously, the 11, 12 years I did play, and all the time I've been retired and enjoying the game and watching it from afar.
I don't think that's not my place, to answer, to even be able to give the answer to that. I feel like it's not in my control, so I'm not even gonna think about that or have that even in my thought process of why it is. There's a lot of people that want to have the opportunity to be at this level, and I'm here, and I'm thankful to have the opportunity. So whenever that is, it is. But it doesn't make me feel down, or it doesn't make me feel left out or anything, because I know who I am as a person. I know who I am as an individual.
Look, I'm not going to pretend I don't have a personal connection to this story, because I do. I've sat in the room with Shedeur. I've talked with Shiloh, with Deion Sanders Jr., with the entire Sanders family. So when I tell you what's happening in Cleveland right now is downright disgusting. I am not exaggerating. I am speaking from a place of knowing what this kid has actually endured behind closed doors. I'm not some random guy online throwing out hot takes for attention. I'm someone who understands exactly what this young man has been navigating in the background. So let's start from the beginning, because this situation is layered like an onion. And the deeper you peel, the worse the stench gets. Dillon Gabriel goes down with a concussion against the Saints. The Browns are collapsing. The offense looks completely lifeless. And Kevin Stefanski has no choice but to put Shedeur Sanders into the game. Here's the part almost nobody realizes. This was the first time Shedeur had ever taken a snap with the starting offense. Not in practice, not in training camp, not in walkthroughs. The first time this man ran plays with the ones was in a live NFL game with the season on the line. Let that sit for a second. Shedeur Sanders was drafted in May. We're now in week 11. That's 6 months of practices, of film sessions, of opportunities to give him even a fraction of meaningful work. And Kevin Stefanski gave him absolutely nothing. Zero. Zilch. Nada. You're telling me that in all those practice periods, Dillon Gabriel couldn't spare 2 reps out of 10? You're telling me there wasn't a single moment where Stefanski thought, maybe we should prepare our second-round pick just in case something happens to our starter? That's not coaching. That's negligence. And John Harbaugh, whether he intended to or not, just exposed the entire operation.
There's no possible way anything could possibly go wrong. Then get Shedeur 1 rep with the ones, 2 reps with the ones. I ain't saying split it 50-50. I understand that. But even when John was taking the majority of the reps, John, if we did 10 reps in a period, The backup would take 2, just in case. So for Shedeur Sanders, here we are in week 11.
Now, you might be wondering, all right, what exactly did Harbaugh say? Let me break it down, because this is where things get really interesting. A reporter asked him about facing a backup quarterback who comes in with almost no film, and Harbaugh's answer was absolutely textbook. He said, "You practice your game plan, and the plan is built for their offensive system. They're not going to change who they are. You don't know exactly how the quarterback will look, but you take care of your own business." On the surface, sure, it sounds like your standard coach speak, but listen closely to what he's actually implying. He's telling you that when a backup steps onto the field, the offense doesn't suddenly transform into something new. The plays stay the same, the system stays the same, the identity stays the same. The only difference is the quarterback running it. So the obvious question becomes this: if every good team prepares their backup to run the same system, why didn't Kevin Stefanski prepare Shedeur to run Cleveland's? Why didn't he give him reps? Why didn't he develop him the way every competent staff develops its QB2? Harbaugh's been around this league for decades. He's seen backups come in and thrive because they were prepared, and he's seen backups struggle because they weren't given anything. And what he was subtly pointing out is that preparation matters. Chemistry with the starters matters. Reps matter. And on every one of those fronts, the Browns failed Shedeur Sanders. Here's where the story takes a turn that honestly hit me in the chest. Coach Prime, Dillon Sanders himself, spoke to a group yesterday, and you could hear it in his voice. It was cracking. There was real hurt in every word. He said he was emotional watching Shedeur play because it's been a long road getting to this moment. Then he dropped the bombshell. Shedeur Sanders has been on this team since May, and he hasn't gotten any reps. No timing with receivers, no idea where guys break off routes, nothing. And that is critical to a quarterback's development. Prime didn't stop there either. He said something Browns fans aren't going to like, but it needed to be said. He said he feels the Browns have already damaged Shedeur mentally, and that maybe the best thing for him is to go somewhere else where he can be developed the right way. Get him out of Cleveland, he said. Y'all don't care. Never cared.
First time that Shedeur Sanders had taken a snap with the starters, with the ones, was in this game, is malpractice. At no point in time, and this is what I said, Ocho, so at no point in time, so you don't think Dillon Gabriel could possibly get hurt? He can't possibly bring a knee, bring a shoulder, get concussion. There's no possible way anything could possibly go wrong that you want to get Shedeur like 1 rep with the ones, 2 reps with the ones.
From a father watching his son get set up to fail, the emotion makes sense. And before anybody jumps in saying Coach Prime is being dramatic or overprotective, let me ask you a real question. If you spent years training your son, watching him dominate at Jackson State, watching him dominate at Colorado, seeing him finally get drafted into the NFL, and then you watched that team refuse to develop him, refuse to give him opportunities, refuse to even practice with him properly, wouldn't you be emotional too? Wouldn't you be furious? This isn't entitlement. This is about basic professional development that every backup quarterback in the league gets, except Shedeur. And speaking of anger, Shannon Sharpe absolutely lost it on Nightcap last night. I'm talking a full 4-minute explosion where even Chad Johnson was just sitting there nodding because he couldn't believe what he was hearing either. Shannon opened by saying the first time Shedeur Sanders had ever taken a snap with the starters, with the ones, was in this actual game, and he called it what it is. Malpractice. Real malpractice. That S, a legal term for when a doctor screws up so badly they should lose their license. And Shannon flat out said that's the level of failure Kevin Stefanski just hit with Shedeur. He kept going. At no point did you think Dillon Gabriel could get hurt. He can't blow a knee, blow a shoulder, take a concussion. There was no scenario where you felt the need to give your rookie even 1 rep with the ones. Because here's the thing, Shannon played in the league. He knows exactly how this works. He explained that even when John Elway was entrenched as Denver's starter, if there were 10 reps in a period, the backup took 2 just in case, because in football, anything can happen. Guys go down, momentum shifts, situations change. Your backup has to be ready, not just for himself, but for the entire team. But Stefanski didn't do that. He ignored Shedeur completely. And the moment Dillon Gabriel went down, the Browns were forced to throw a rookie into the fire who had never practiced with the starting receivers. who didn't know the timing of their routes, who had no chemistry with the offensive line, and who had Dante even sat down with Stefanski on Saturday night to go over his favorite plays, the way Gabriel does every single week.
You know, you're outside in Cleveland.
Nah, don't start that shit. No.
I'm about to contact. Give me a second. Give me a second, Ocho. Baltimore outside, Pittsburgh outside, Cincinnati, Cleveland. I don't see where Dillon Gabriel arm is any stronger than Shedeur's. I could be wrong. I could be, but I don't know.
You know what happens when a quarterback tells his offensive coordinator which plays he's comfortable with? The coordinator builds the entire game plan around those strengths. That's how you maximize a player's ceiling. That's how you put an offense in the best position to win. But Stefanski couldn't do that with Shedeur because he had no idea what Shedeur was actually good at. He had no data, no practice tape, no real chemistry to lean on, nothing. So when Shedeur entered that game, Stefanski was basically calling plays blindfolded, hoping something landed, and obviously it didn't. Shedeur's stat line wasn't spectacular, but how could it be? The kid was out there playing a completely different sport than the rest of the offense. The receivers didn't know his timing, the offensive line didn't know his cadence, and the play calling was as generic as it gets because Stefanski had no clue what Shedeur excelled at. None of this was a talent issue, it was a preparation issue. And this is where I need to clear something up, because I already know people are going to jump in saying, well, Shedeur didn't look good, so maybe the Browns were right not to give him reps. To those people, respectfully, you're missing the entire point. This isn't Madden. You don't just swap quarterbacks like swapping controllers and expect the offense to hum. Football is timing. Football is chemistry. Football is rhythm and repetition. It's about a quarterback knowing that when his receiver breaks at 12 yards, he needs to throw it 10. It is about the offensive line being locked into the quarterback-esque cadence, the way he uses a hard count, the tempo he prefers. It's about the running back knowing the exact mesh point on handoffs. All of that is built in practice, and Shedeur didn't get any of it.
Especially when you haven't had any reps with the ones. When it comes to the play calling, what play calls are you going to be able to call for a quarterback that hasn't had any reps with the ones? You don't know what he does well, what he doesn't do, you don't know what he does well. You don't know what he's not going to be good at because there's no chemistry. There's no chemistry. So you're just out there calling plays all willy-nilly, not knowing how the offense can run. And I know as a quarterback, you're supposed to be prepared.
Shannon Sharpe broke down one specific play where Shedeur got blasted, and it summed up the entire problem in one snapshot. You had 3 offensive linemen locking onto a single defender, while another rusher came untouched off the edge, almost taking Shedeur's head off. Shannon explained exactly what should have happened. A simple redirect. The quarterback slides the protection to the left, the guard or center picks up the looping rusher, and boom, you're protected. But Shedeur isn't there yet. He can't make those calls because he hasn't had the reps. He hasn't built that on-field trust with the offensive line. They don't know his alerts, he doesn't know their responses. And nobody on that unit has developed the communication you need to survive in the NFL. And that isn't Shedeur's fault, that's Kevin Stefanski's fault. That's the Browns' fault for letting it get to this point. Now, I've been saying for weeks that the Browns are sabotaging Shedeur. And I know some of you think I'm being dramatic or reaching for content, but after seeing what happened yesterday, after watching how this entire situation melted down in real time, I'm more convinced than ever that something shady is going on behind the scenes in Cleveland. And I'm not the only one seeing it. There, as the agent angle IVA talked about before, the fact that Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders have different agents, and their S been strange. Uncomfortable politics surrounding who gets what opportunities. Then there's the reality that Stefanski seems personally invested in making Dillon Gabriel work, almost like his job depends on it. Spoiler alert, it probably does. When you draft a quarterback in the 2nd round and he busts, that's usually a fireable offense for both the GM and the head coach. So Stefanski is riding with Dillon Gabriel no matter what, even if it means flat out neglecting the development of the guy behind him. But here's the part that blows my mind. Even if you don't like Shedeur Sanders, even if you think Dillon Gabriel is the better quarterback, even if you are the biggest Stefanski defender alive, you still have to admit one thing. Not giving your backup quarterback any first-team reps is objectively terrible coaching. There is no defending that. There is no clever way to spin that. There is no football universe where that is acceptable. It's just bad management, bad preparation, and bad leadership, and the Browns are paying the price for it.
Isn't that what parents supposed to do? Put their kids in the best situation so they can succeed. So why would I, if I had the opportunity to put my kids in a situation that I think will enhance them or help them succeed, nah, I'm not gonna do that. I want you to get it out the mud like I did. What kind of sense does that make?
None at all.
Man, so
listen, you don't need 20/20 vision.
And the worst part is this. What happened on Sunday could have long-term consequences for Shedur's career. Coach Prime said it himself. The Browns have damaged him mentally. When you're a young quarterback trying to prove yourself and your own team refuses to give you meaningful reps, refuses to let you work with the players you're supposed to compete with, what does that do to your confidence? What does that do to your preparation? What does that do to your trust in the organization? It creates doubt. It creates frustration. It builds a toxic environment where the player feels like he's fighting against his own team instead of fighting with it. And that is exactly the storm Cleveland is sitting in right now. Let me be clear about something. I'm not saying Shedeur Sanders is flawless. I'm not saying he's a future Hall of Famer or the next Patrick Mahomes. What I am saying is he deserves a fair shot. He deserves real development. He deserves the same opportunities every other backup quarterback in the NFL receives. And right now, he isn't getting that in Cleveland, not even close. So now the question becomes, what happens next? Dillon Gabriel is in concussion protocol, which means there's a real possibility Shedeur starts against the Raiders this week. And if that happens, it's going to be one of the most revealing moments of the season. Stefanski will finally have a full week to actually coach him, to give him first-team reps, to build a game plan tailored to what Shedeur does best, something he should have been doing from the moment they drafted him. If Shedeur goes out there and plays well, Stefanski is going to look even worse for keeping him buried on the depth chart without proper preparation. If Shedeur struggles, people will pin it on him without understanding he is stepping into a situation without the months of chemistry, timing, and repetition every quarterback needs. Either way, this storyline is nowhere near finished, and the NFL knows it. Other teams are watching, other front offices are taking notes. And if the Browns keep mishandling Shedeur, you better believe there will be organizations lining up to trade for him. Because despite whatever Cleveland seems to think, the kid can play. He has the talent, the pedigree, the arm talent, the poise, the football IQ. What he needs is a coaching staff that actually believes in him and invests in his growth. And that leads us to the bigger picture, because this isn't just a Cleveland problem. This is a league-wide issue, a systemic flaw in how young quarterbacks get handled. Teams throw them into impossible situations with no structure, no reps, no support, and then act shocked when it doesn't look perfect. It's a cycle the NFL refuses to break, and Shedeur Sanders just became the latest example of how damaging that cycle really is. Think about how many young quarterbacks have been wrecked by bad coaching, bad organizations, and worse development plans. Think about David Carr getting sacked 76 times as a rookie in Houston. Think about Josh Rosen getting traded twice in 2 years. Think about every quarterback Cleveland has drafted in the last 25 years not named Baker Mayfield. The league has a brutal track record when it comes to developing young signal callers, and Cleveland is one of the worst offenders. And before Browns fans come for me, this isn't slander, it's reality. Look at the list of quarterbacks they've cycled through since 1999. It's embarrassing. The problem isn't the players. The problem is the structure around them, the coaching, the instability, the total lack of a unified development plan. Shedeur Sanders walked straight into that chaos. The Browns had just signed Dillon Gabriel, a veteran presence, and from day one they viewed him as the starter. And that's perfectly fine. Nobody is saying Shedeur should have started week 1, but to not give him real backup reps, to not prepare him at all, that's organizational malpractice, exactly the way Shannon Sharpe described it. And then there's Coach Prime's comment, the one about Cleveland damaging Shedeur mentally. That's heavy, because confidence is everything for a quarterback. You've got to believe you can make every throw. You've got to believe your coaches trust you. You've got to believe the organization is invested in you. When that belief system cracks, recovery becomes almost impossible. We've seen it across the league. Marcus Mariota lost his confidence in Tennessee and never got it back. Sam Darnold is still trying to rebuild his career after the Jets broke him. The mental side of quarterbacking is just as important as the physical. And the Browns are playing with fire by treating Shedeur like an afterthought. But here's where I want to flip it a bit, because I know my audience loves Shedeur, and I do too. Despite everything working against him, despite the lack of preparation, despite being thrown into the fire with no rhythm or support, Shedeur still flashed yesterday. He still made throws that remind you exactly why he was a second-round pick. He still competed. He still battled. That tells me something huge. The talent is there. The toughness is there. The foundation is there. What's missing is the system. What's missing is the support. And if Shedeur ever finds those things, whether in Cleveland, after they finally get their act together, or somewhere else through a trade, this kid is going to make noise in this league. Shannon Sharpe said something else that stuck with me. He said it's going to be very interesting this week. If Dillon Gabriel stays in protocol and Shedeur gets the start against the Raiders, he'll finally get something he's been denied for 6 months. Every rep, every snap, with the ones, and a full week where Kevin Stefanski actually knows what his quarterback likes. And that's the thing. This week could be the turning point. If Gabriel can't clear protocol, Shedeur will get his first real week as the starting quarterback. He'll get all the reps. He'll sit down with Stefanski and actually go through a game plan. He'll work with Amari Cooper and the receivers on timing. He'll work with the offensive line on protections. He'll do all the things he should have been doing since May. And when, not if, he goes out there and performs well. It's going to raise a whole list of uncomfortable questions for Stefanski. Questions like, why didn't you do this sooner? Why did it take an injury for you to start developing your second-round pick? Why did you put this kid in such an avoidable situation? And the truth is, Stefanski doesn't have good answers, because there are no good answers. There is no valid reason to give your backup quarterback zero preparation. It was incompetence, ego, or sabotage. Pick one. All of them are bad. John Harbaugh's comments yesterday were subtle, but they were sharp. When he talked about how a good organization keeps its backup ready and how defenses prepare for multiple quarterbacks, he was basically saying the quiet part out loud. If you run your team correctly, your backup should be ready to execute your system. That was a shot at Cleveland, whether he meant it or not. The Ravens would never put a quarterback, starter, or backup in that kind of situation. Lamar Jackson's backups get reps. They know the playbook, they're prepared. That's what strong organizations do, and that's why I keep saying this. If things don't change, Shedeur needs to get out of Cleveland, because if this is how they treat him now, what makes anyone believe it's going to magically improve? If Gabriel gets healthy next week, does Shedeur go right back to 0 reps? Do they pretend Sunday never happened and snap back to the same dysfunctional pattern? I hope not. For Shedeur's sake, for the Browns' sake, and honestly for the sake of basic football competence, I hope Stefanski learns something from this mess. I hope he realizes you can ignore your backup quarterback for half a season and then act surprised when everything falls apart. But I'm not holding my breath. At the end of the day, this entire situation is frustrating because it never needed to happen. Shedeur Sanders is a talented young quarterback with a Hall of Fame father who's prepared him for this moment better than most rookies entering the league. He's played in big stages, handled pressure, and shown he has the tools to succeed in the NFL. But he needs an organization that actually invests in him. He needs a coaching staff that wants to develop him, not bury him. And right now, Cleveland isn't giving him any of that. So here's what I want you to do. Get down in the comments right now and tell me what you think. Should Shedeur be pushing for a trade? Do you believe the Browns are sabotaging him on purpose? Or is this just Cleveland being Cleveland and tripping over their own operation again? And if you were Shedeur, how would you handle this mess? Because if I'm in his shoes, I'm having some very real conversations with my agent today. I'm looking around the league. I'm studying which teams actually develop quarterbacks and which ones chew them up and spit them out. And Cleveland is looking more and more like the wrong side of that equation. But here's the part that keeps me optimistic. Shedeur's got Prime in his corner. He's got Shannon Sharpe calling out the nonsense on national television. And he's got people like me, folks who have sat in the room with him, who know the kind of competitor, the kind of worker, the kind of person he is. The truth is out there now. The NFL is watching. And if the Browns don't clean this up, trust me, another team will. That's where we're at. John Harbaugh just exposed Kevin Stefanski without even trying. Coach Prime is emotional, and he has every right to be. Shannon Sharpe called the situation malpractice, and Shedeur Sanders is standing in the middle of an organizational meltdown he didn't create. But here's the thing. I still believe in this kid. I believe he's going to push through this. I believe he's going to rise above it. and I believe he's going to prove a lot of people wrong. The only real question is whether he does it in Cleveland or somewhere else. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like the video if you think Shedeur deserves better. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on too, because I'm breaking this story down all week. And if Dillon Gabriel can't go against the Raiders, you already know I'll be analyzing every single snap Shedeur takes. This is far from over. The Shedeur Sanders saga in Cleveland is just getting started, and I'll be here for all of it. Now, shake the haters off. Peace out.